Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I want to thank everybody that's on Zoom and those that watch the YouTube video and everybody that's been part of our ministry. I just want to thank everybody that, for being here with us today and joining us in our study. I guess before we get started, let's go to Yahuwah in prayer, just asking to bless this time. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all that you do and the many blessings that you give us. Father, help us to be mindful of the blessings that you give us. Father, help us to not become complacent. Help us to recognize where you're working and what you're doing, and help us to accept what what you're doing. Father, in the world and everywhere, we just help us to accept your work. And Father, just continue to watch over, guide, and direct us. Father, help, be with us through our study today. Give us wisdom in your word. And all this we ask and pray in Yahushua's name. Amen. All right. So with that, let's go to the Shema right quick. And we'll do that. All right. Okay, so the Shema, that's Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 9. It says, Hear, O Yasharel, Yahuwah is our Elohim, Yahuwah is one. And you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These words I am commanding you today are to be upon your hearts, and you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. All right. So I guess with that, we'll move into the study. And I want to preface our study. I started out our study today. It's kind of it's kind of hard to nail down as far as titling it or whatever, but it's basically titled Yom Teruah, the last jubilee. And so uh, I started out actually in a different direction and started, putting some stuff together about Yom Teruah and things about, about the first day of the seventh month, which is the Feast of Trumpets, Yom Teruah. And the more I went in, the deeper it got. And anyway, today it basically exploded on information that it got really too big real quick. So just with that, I just kind of preface our study with that a little bit because I may be going too fast or may end up going fast because it's really a pretty big study, but I need to get into it and quit talking. But the thing is, it I guess what I'm trying to say is that, if you get much out of the study, you're probably going to have to pay attention. You're going to have to kind of buckle your seatbelt and hang on because it might be going pretty fast. So with that, let's look at the slideshow presentation, and I titled it Yom Teruah, Announcement of the Final Jubilee. Okay, so when you're looking at the looking at scripture. Okay, according to the biblical reckoning of time, and I'm going to call it a calendar, but a calendar is really not, I don't like the word calendar because when you look at the biblical reckoning of time, there's several calendars that people try to hold to, and they don't recognize what each calendar is actually used for. But anyway, okay, so in the Jubilee calendar, okay, the reckoning of the biblical reckoning of time, every 49 years. Now, see, now this is where it kind of gets a little complicated, and you might want to do some individual study. But okay, after the 49th year, the next year is the 50th or the final year of the current Jubilee and the first year of the next Jubilee. So the 50th and the first years are together in the same year. Now, I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but on Yom Teruah, when Yom Teruah is the blowing of the shofar, that's on the first day of the seventh month. That's announcing the end of the 49th jubilee. Now this is when you get to the 49 years. This is announcing the end, and on Yom Kippur is the very beginning of the 50th jubilee, but the 50th is also the first jubilee of the next year, or of the next jubilee cycle. Okay, now again, it's complicated, but that's what the scripture actually says. And it goes on, it says the blowing of the trumpets on Yom Teruah announced the beginning of the jubilee. So every 50 years, it boils down to, to 50 years is a new jubilee cycle. The 50th year of the 50th and end year of the jubilee is also the first year of the next jubilee. Okay. Anyway, that's the way it's arranged. Now, when reckoning biblical time, the Jubilee calendar, it's not designed to keep the Moedim. The Jubilee calendar is designed to keep count and track of the Jubilee, the 50-year cycle. Okay, it's not designed for the Moedim. In fact, the Zadok calendar, or the biblical priestly calendar, is not designed for the Moedim. It's designed to keep the the priests in their cycles. So you've got the Jubilee calendar, you got the Zadok calendar, or the priestly calendar, and neither one of those are designed for keeping the Moedim calendar, like, what, keeping up with the Moedim and the days, because the Moedim calendar, if you go to Psalm 104:19, it says that the moon actually directs the Moedim. Okay, well, the moon's not used in the Zadok calendar, and it's not used in the Jubilee calendar, but the moon is used in the Moedim calendar. So the sun, moon, and stars, they, according to Genesis, when Yahuwah created the sun, moon, and stars, they are for signs, seasons, days, and years. Signs being what we're going to be studying today. We're going to be going into Revelation 12, and we're going to be looking at the signs. Okay, so looking at the signs, you have to look at the Mazarot. You have to look at the constellations, and the moon and the sun. You have to look at all of the you know the Mazarot that's in the Shamayim, in the heaven. So you look at all of that. So that's the signs, and then the seasons. The season there, the word in the Hebrew is moedim. So in the moedim, and Psalm 104:19 says that the moon, Yarek, it's Yeshad Yarek la moedim. In other words, the moon directs the moedim. And so, if the moon directs the Moedim, then, that's what the moon is used for. And so that the moon has to be used in the calculation. And then the signs, seasons, and then days and years, the days are regulated by the sun. When it's light, it's day. When the sun goes behind whatever it goes behind, and it gets dark, then it's night. So the sun has to do with the reckoning of the days. And then the years, it's the sun, moon, and stars, all of it. When the sun is in the constellation of Pisces, and then the next new moon, that's the beginning of the new year. So so the reckoning of time, when it comes to the sign, season, days, and years, we use all of it, and that's in the Moedim calendar. And the Jubilee calendar and the Zadok calendar doesn't do all that. So anyway, it's all of it together goes into what I would call it Yahuwah's calendar. But you've got to understand what each piece is actually used for. But anyway, on Yom Teruah, on at the end of a current jubilee in the 49th year, at the end of the 49th year of the jubilee, when the trumpets blow on Yom Teruah, that is announcing the end of that jubilee and the beginning of the new jubilee coming. Okay? Now, that's information that we're going to need when I draw everything together in the end. Okay, so we need to understand about the Jubilee. Okay, now let's go to this. Adam, which was the first man. Okay, you've got Adam. That's Aleph, Dalet, Mem. That in Hebrew, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, Adam. And it's translated in Hebrew as man. Okay, so when you read that, Yahuwah created man, well, that word there is actually Adam. It's Aleph, Dalet, Mem. Okay, now he created man out of Adamah. Adamah is Aleph, Dalet, Mem, Hey. And it's translated in Hebrew as dirt, earth, or the ground. Okay? Now there's another word called eretz, which means it means the earth, but eretz is is a more broader term. Okay, it covers the hills and the valleys and the mountains and the streams and the oceans and all. So that would be the eretz. But here the word Adamah is literally the dirt or the earth or the ground. Now we know that according to in Leviticus, it talks about when you kill an animal, you're supposed to put the blood on the ground because the blood contains the life. Okay, so the word blood in Hebrew is dam, which is dalet mem, and it's translated in Hebrew as the English word as blood. Okay, now here's I kind of put this together to try to help maybe understand a little bit because this is vitally important that we understand it. Okay, Yahuwah took the Adamah, the dirt, the earth, the Adamah. That's Aleph, Dalet, Mem, Hey. He took Adamah. Now, if you notice, I put Dam in red. Dam is blood. Where you see red in this page, that is blood. Okay. And Adamah, which is the dirt, has blood. It has Dam. It has the Dalet Mem. Okay. And he formed Adam, out of Adamah. Now, Adam is Aleph, Dalet, Mem. He is the first man. Okay. Adamah, the Aleph, Dalet, Mem, Hey, the dirt, the earth, it contains blood. So, the dirt contains the life or the blood, which all life comes from. All life comes from the earth. Okay? When Yahuwah created Adam, he took the dirt and formed a human being, the first man. He formed him out of the dirt, but now that dirt already contained the blood. So when Yahuwah breathed his life into him, he put his ruach, his spirit, he breathed into Adam. Then Adam became a living being. Okay, so the connection between the earth, man, and blood, it all contains the blood. In other words, Adamah contains the blood. The earth, the dirt, contains blood. Adam contains blood. Then you have the blood. It's in Adamah and Adam, and it all connects. That's why it's all in the Hebrew. It you see the connection. In English, you'll never see that connection, but in the Hebrew, you do because it's there. It's in the Hebrew words. Okay. In Genesis 1:26 said, when Yahuwah said, let us make man, Adam, in our image, after our likeness, to rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over the livestock, and over all the earth itself, and every creature that crawls upon it. Okay, so here's the question. Who is the hour? Who is the hour that he's talking about there? In our image, in our likeness. The answer, Yahuwah is one, and the Adamah, or the earth, or the dirt, is the other. Okay, so if you think about it, Adam is in the image and the likeness of the formed dirt with the blood already in it. In other words, it's in our image. He is in the image of the dirt. He is in the likeness of the dirt. He is made out of the dirt. So when Yahuwah says, "Let us make man in our image," he's talking about in the image of himself, Yahuwah himself, and the earth, the dirt, the earth, the dirt with the blood in it, because that is the image that he actually was made in. So he let us create man in our image. It's him and the earth. The earth is alive. Believe it or not, you're not looking at a dead piece of ground out there, because the trees, they're growing. They're growing out of the earth. The grass is growing out of the earth. The livestock is growing out of the earth. And everything that is alive is growing out of the earth. The earth is alive. An alive uh, entity, okay? The earth is alive. Yahuwah made it alive by putting the blood in the earth, the Adamah. He put the Dam in the Adamah. Okay. Yahuwah took a chaotic world and changed the chaos to order and created Adam and placed him in it. Okay, so when you're looking at this, the earth was formless and without it was void and without form, and darkness was over the face of the deep. It was a very chaotic place. Okay. Then Yahuwah created the dry land. Then he created the grass and the trees and put the animals in it, and then he put man in it. Okay, so he put Adam in this earth. And Adam was considered, Adam was the first man, and he created Adam out of the earth, out of the dirt. Okay, and he took something very chaotic and he calmed it down and changed the chaos to order. And so when he brought everything to order, and then he placed Adam in it. Okay, now in the Jewish traditions, on Tishri 1, and I don't like using the word Tishri because that's a Babylonian influence, but it's actually on the first day of the seventh month. It marks the sixth day of creation, and the day that Adam was formed from the dust of the ground and given life and the breath by the breath of Yahuwah. In other words, Adam was formed on or about Yom Teruah. Okay, so Adam, uh, when you're looking at Yom Teruah is the announcement that something is fixing to happen, and that happened on the first day of the seventh month. Well, we know that Yom Teruah existed before Adam. Yom Teruah was there before the creation of the world. Okay, and so there were angelic beings blowing the trumpets on Yom Teruah before Adam was created. And then this at this particular time, the trumpets were blast and the creation heard the announcement, and then Adam was created. Okay, I want you to understand this, that Adam was created on or about Yom Teruah. Okay? Now, in the biblical understanding, Tishri, which biblically is Tishri 1, biblically is the first day of the seventh month. Okay, this is the first day of the Jewish month or the Jewish New Year of Tishri. So the Jewish New Year starts on the seventh month. Okay, and this traditionally marks the Feast of Trumpets. And again, biblically, the first day of the seventh month. Okay, and the start of the civil year in the Jewish calendar. So it's also the day of Rosh Hashanah, which is the head of the year and the Jewish New Year. So in other words, the first day of the seventh month, according to the Jewish calendar, is the first day of the first. It's the first day or the head of the year, the first day of the year, but it's in the seventh month. Now, it's complicated, but the Jubilee calendar the Jubilee calendar breaks in the seventh month, not the first month. Like, when Moses, was being told by Yahuwah that at the time of the vernal equinox, at the Tekufa, of the vernal equinox, then that would be the first month for him. Okay. But that was the first month of the Moedim calendar. And the seventh month of the Moedim calendar is the first month of the Jubilee calendar. So the two calendars, they work hand in hand, but you have to understand how they work. And I know it's complicated, but you've almost got to do the study yourself to actually try to figure this out. But the Moedim calendar starts at the time of the some people call it Tekufa. That's fine. The Tekufa uh, of the time of the vernal equinox. Okay, that's the first month of the biblical new year, the Moedim new year, the Moed new year. But the Jubilee calendar starts in the seventh month. So the Jubilee calendar splits the years. So when you're looking at the Moedim calendar, the 49th or the 50th year and the first year split, and they're the same year of the Moedim calendar. It's complicated. I'm not going to go any more into it because I know I'm digging a hole. But the thing that you have to understand is at the time of the seventh month, the Jews consider it the beginning of the year, the head of the year, or Rosh Hashanah, and that's the Jewish New Year, which, anyway, that's just the way they do it. But it's at the time of the blowing of the shofar, the Yom Teruah. Okay, now we've looked at Adam, and Adam was created on or about Yom Teruah. Okay, let's look at Noah now. Now we know that Adam was the first man. And looking at Noah, Noah could have been considered a renewed first man. Okay, so let's just look at Noah for a minute. According to the extra biblical text and historical information, Noah was born on the first day of the seventh month, on or about Yom Teruah. Okay, now Noah, it says that a fresh start after the world had been cleansed from its great sinfulness. You could say that Noah is like the second Adam. Okay? Now, Noah, you could say that he's like the second Adam because so you had Adam, and Adam had children, and the children become wicked, and things got really out of control, and so Yahuwah destroyed them with the flood, and now we have Noah. So we were all individually, we're all descendants of Noah, and we're also all we're all descendants of Adam, and then through Adam we're all descendants of Noah. Through Noah, we're all descendants of Noah also. And so, Noah could be considered the second Adam. Okay. But I don't like using the word second Adam, but it's more like the renewed Adam, if you would. Okay. Now, Yahuwah took a chaotic world, which the chaotic world was the giants were here, and the bloodline was confounded and confused, and it was really, really bad. And so Yahuwah took a chaotic world, changed the chaos to order, and placed Noah and his family in it. So again, he took a chaotic world, just like he did with Adam. He took a chaotic world. He changed the chaos to order by eliminating all the bad stuff, and then he placed Noah in this. And he did it with Noah, and Noah was, according to tradition, was born on or about Yom Teruah. Now, let's look at Yahusha. Okay, Yahusha is also known as the last Adam. Okay, it says that he's called the last Adam in 1 Corinthians 15:45. So, and it says he also dealt with the great sinfulness of the world and those that are in him are a new creation. And this is, you can find this in 2 Corinthians 5:17. Okay, so now let's look at these three right quick. You've got Adam, you've got Noah, and you've got Yahusha. They were all born at the same time of the year that was on or about Yom Teruah. Now, when I say on or about, what I want to clarify this. So the announcement on Yom Teruah went out before each one of these guys were born. So the announcement went out, and then they may have been born a day or so later, but they were born because of the announcement of Yom Teruah, and they were born before Yom Kippur, which would be, so Yom Teruah is on the first day of the seventh month, and Yom Kippur is on the 10th day of the seventh month. So they were born between, and that's called, that time frame is called the 10 days of awe. But they were born in that time frame. Okay. So you got Adam, Noah, and Yahusha. Adam being the first man, Noah being basically the second Adam, or the second man, and Yahusha being the last Adam or man. And so, uh, you know, seeing that, okay, so with Noah and Adam, it was all physical. With Yahusha, now it's going to be spiritual. And the only way that everybody was affected with Adam and with Noah. But the only people that's going to be affected with Yahusha, with what he did, is those that keep the commandments of Yahuwah and have the faith that Yahusha is the Messiah. Okay. It says, Yahuwah took a disobedient, chaotic world, changed the chaos to righteousness and order by ratifying with his blood the covenant that reestablished the only path to salvation and the way to Yahuwah himself, which is the Derek. Derek is the Hebrew word for the way. So Yahusha now took a chaotic world and he changed the chaos to righteousness. And chaos, he changed it from chaos to righteousness and order. Okay. And he did it by ratifying the covenant with his blood. And that covenant reestablished the only path to salvation, the only way to Yahuwah. And that's where Adam, basically, you can't say that he saved man, but he is the beginning of man. Noah, basically, from a physical standpoint, by Yahuwah using Noah saved humanity. He saved the bloodline that would have to come. The bloodline had to come through Noah because the scripture said that Noah was perfect in all his generations, meaning that his bloodline was not defiled. Now, some of his daughter-in-laws that were there were three daughter-in-laws. Some of them had defiled blood because it says later that the giant bloodline made it through the flood. Well, the only way it made it through the flood was by Noah's uh, daughter-in-laws. Okay, it was the wives of Ham, Shem, or Japheth, and it would not have been through Shem because the Messiah is a descendant of Shem, which means that the Messiah's blood could not have had or could not have been contaminated. Okay, so you can eliminate Noah. You can hopefully eliminate Noah's wife. Well, you have to eliminate Noah's wife because Noah's wife had Shem, and Shem was clean. But Ham and Japheth married one of those or both married women that had some of the giant bloodline DNA in them because it said that the giant bloodline made it through the flood. So, but you can eliminate Shem because the Messiah was born from Shem. Okay, and his bloodline had to be pure. It could not have been unclean. Okay. Okay, so far we see that Adam, Noah, and Yahusha were born on or shortly after Yom Teruah, between Yom Teruah, trumpets, and Yom Kippur on the Day of Atonement. Now, this, just putting all this together, it's really good information. Okay. But we're not even near the point of the message yet. Not even close. So hold on. Okay, let's look at Revelation chapter 12. I want to go through the entire chapter of Revelation chapter 12 right quick. Okay. And a great sign appeared in heaven, and a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and crying out in the pain and agony of giving birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, a huge red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 royal crowns on his head. His tail swept a third of the stars from the sky, hurling them to the earth. And you can find this in Ezekiel 28. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, ready to devour her child as soon as she gave birth. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was caught up to Yahuwah and to his throne, and the woman fled into the wilderness, where Yahuwah had prepared a place for her to be nourished for 1,260 days. Okay, now, I want to give a little commentary here. John was given this vision. But the thing about it that's really strange is all of this stuff has already happened. It happened before John wrote his is before it was while okay, so when you look at this great sign in heaven, the sign had been there since the foundation of the world. It just hadn't come to be yet. And it talks about the woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet and the crown of 12 stars on her head. Okay, so that is all in the Masorot. And that all was happening, that all happened before John was even born. Okay? And then it goes on, it says she was pregnant and cried out in pain and agony giving birth, and another sign appeared in heaven, and there was a huge red dragon. Well, all of this is looking at the constellations. It's looking at the Masorot. So the Virgin is the constellation of Virgo. The dragon is right there. If you look at, I'm trying to remember the name of the constellation. But it's right there. You can look at the constellation and you can see the dragon in the stars. Okay? And it says that his tail swept a third of the stars from the sky. Well, this is talking about Ezekiel 28, when Yahuwah when he kicked Satan and a third of the angels to the earth. So this happened way back when, and probably at the time before even Adam was born. So this is talking about a time that was way back when, and then. It said the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, ready to devour the child as soon as she gave birth. And she gave birth to a son, the male child. Male child is Yahusha, okay, who will rule the nations with an iron scepter. And the child was caught up to Yahuwah and to his throne. And then the woman fled into the wilderness, where Yahuwah had prepared a place for her to nourish for 1,260 days. Okay, so that during the time of Herod, set out to kill Yahusha as he was a baby. Well, the angel went to Joseph and Miriam and told them to go to Egypt. Well, he sent them into the wilderness for 1,260 days. When they came out, Messiah, Yahusha, was a toddler. And so, at that particular time, so that all of that stuff, all of what you're looking at has already happened. And he called them out while he was a toddler. The 1,260 days is 3.5 years. And that's the time frame that it took for Herod to die and, for safety to come back to where the Messiah could come back to Judah. Okay. Now, verse 7. It says, then a war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. And the dragon was not as strong, and no longer was any place found in heaven for him and his angels. And the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the world. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. Okay, so this is Ezekiel 28. It's where where sin was found in the heart of of the devil. The devil thought of himself to be equal to Yahuwah, and when he did, evidently he had convinced a third of the angels, and that's when Yahuwah cast them to the earth. Okay, so this happened thousands of years before John writing. So it's like, you're taking John's Revelation 12. We've always looked at this as some kind of prophecy, but it's not a prophecy. He's being told the story of what has happened, and he's writing it down. But it's all hinging on a sign, this Revelation 12 sign, where the virgin is giving birth and she's got a crown of 12 stars. She's clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. Okay, so it all hinges on that. That there's an importance that is attached to that vision or to that occurrence that's going to happen in the Maserot. Okay, let's continue on. Let's go to verse 10. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our Elohim and of the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down. He who accuses them daily, day and night before Elohim. They have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of his testimony, and he did not love their lives so as to shy away from death. Therefore, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea and the great fury the devil has come down to you, knowing he has only a short time. All right. Now, here it's talking about the devil. Okay, he has authority to go to Yahuwah day and night and tell Yahuwah what we're doing. And he is bringing indictments against us to Yahuwah day and night. That's what this is saying. But Yahuwah is sitting there. He's taking notes, I'm sure, or having notes. He already knows. And it says that, but the thing that the devil doesn't realize is that he has been conquered by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. In other words, you can look at this two different ways. The testimony of Yahusha, he's condemned by that, and he's also condemned by his own testimony. He's condemned by, his disobedience. That's his testimony. His testimony condemns him. But Yahusha's testimony also condemns him. Okay? And and it says, therefore rejoice, O heavens, you who dwell in them. And it says, but woe to the earth, to the people that are living on the earth and the sea. Okay, with great fury, the devil has come down to you, knowing he has only a short time. So what it's saying is that those that are here that living on the earth, we're going to be tormented by the devil. That's what he does. And as he torments and as he, sees what we do as we're disobedient, he runs back and he is building a case against each and every one of us with indictments. Verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to a male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the fly from the presence of the serpent to her place in the wilderness, where she was nourished for a time, times, and half a time. All right. So again, this is just retelling the story where the Messiah and Yusuf and Miriam, they had gone to, they got away from the devil, from Herod and his, people trying to kill the Messiah. They got away from him. They went into the wilderness of Mitzrayim or Egypt, and where she was nourished, it says, for a time, times, and half time. And this is interpreted, again, time is 1 year, times is 2 years, and then a half time. So you got a 1 year, 2 year, and a half. So you got 3.5 years or 1,260 days. So when you see 1,260 days, it it's the same as a 3.5 years or a time times and half time. Okay. It's all the same understanding, all the same thing. Okay. Verse 15. It says, then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away in the torrent. But the earth helped the woman and opened its mouth to swallow up the river that the dragon had poured from his mouth, and the dragon was enraged at the woman and went to make war with the rest of her children who keep the commandments of Yahuwah and hold to the testimony of Yahusha. And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. All right, now let's go back and look at this a little bit. And it says, when his mouth, then from his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away in the torrent. Now, when you're looking at Hebrew, the word water is ma'im. And the word water, the ma'im, is the mem in ma'im is considered, when you look at that, the word, the letter mem in Hebrew, it represents water, which is chaos, or it can represent blood. Well, in this particular case, if you look at this and it says he spread or spewed chaos like a river to overtake the woman and sweep her away in the torrent. That's what he intended. He spewed chaos throughout the world trying to destroy the Messiah. Okay? And it says, but the earth, the live earth, the Adamah, the earth with the blood, the earth that assisted Yahuwah in creating man. The earth helped the woman and opened its mouth to swallow up the river that the dragon had poured out from his mouth. So in other words, all the chaos that the dragon spewed out, the earth swallowed it up to protect the woman, to protect the Messiah. And the dragon was enraged at the woman and went to make war with the rest of her children. In other words, who are the children of the Messiah, of the children of Yahuwah? Who are those children? Those that keep the commandments of Yahuwah and hold to the testimony of Yahusha. Okay, so he's going to now make war with us, the direct ha-yashar. Okay, those that are walking the straight and narrow path. And then it says, and the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. So the shore of the sea, we know that the sea represents the people. So, in other words, here the dragon is standing on the people, looking at the people, doing everything that he can to destroy those that are keeping the commandments of Yahuwah and hold to the testimony of Yahusha. Okay, now, we're not there yet. So you haven't seen actually where we're going here. All right, so kind of recap right quick, just to kind of bring everything back to your memory. Okay, we've got Adam, Noah, Yahusha. They were all born on or about Yom Teruah. Here we have this Revelation 12 sign where we have a woman, the virgin, Virgo. She was clothed with the sun, and the moon was under her feet, and on her head was a crown of 12 stars. Now, we're going to look at a astronomy program right quick. Okay, on September 23rd of 2017, this occurrence happened. Okay, it was the constellation of Virgo. You have the constellation of Virgo. Now, the picture of the girl and the picture of the lion, they're superseded, or they're superimposed, I guess, into the constellation. You can see the stars in the constellation of Virgo, and you can see the stars in the constellation of Leo. Now, Virgo, when you're looking at the prophecy or the Revelation 12 sign that John was talking about, you have on September the 23rd, 2017, Virgo was clothed with the sun. She was in the sun, and the moon was under her feet. And on her head was a crown of 12 stars. Okay, if you look at these two constellations, Virgo and Leo, Virgo is always under the constellation of Leo. It's always in that order. But the thing is, Leo has nine visible stars. Nine. Now, at this particular time on September 23rd, 2017, three movable stars, planets, moved into the constellation of Leo. That was Mars, Mercury, and Venus, which made 12 visible stars in the constellation of Leo. Now, that's the 12 stars. This this setup supposedly has never happened before this time. Okay? Whether it has or not, I don't know. But the astronomers, the people that study the stars, they say that this has never happened. Okay? Now, there's still more to the story. So you have the Virgin. She's clothed with the sun, the moon's under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. Okay, now here's something else I want to bring your attention to. Down here in the abdomen of the Virgin, you see the the uh, the planet of Jupiter. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Okay, the Virgin, Virgo, was clothed with the sun, the moon was under her feet, and the crown of 12 stars on her head. The constellation of Leo, which is also the Leo the Lion, the kingly constellation, it was on her at her head. Leo generally has nine stars in the constellation, but three movable stars or planets, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, moved into the constellation, making Leo having 12 stars. Okay. Now, I mentioned Jupiter being in the constellation of Virgo. The planet Jupiter in Hebrew is Hasidic or Hasidic, however you want to say it. And Ha is the Sadiq means righteous. So in other words, Jupiter in Hebrew is the righteous. It's called the righteous star or the righteous planet. Righteous. That's key. Okay. It was in the abdomen of the constellation of Virgo for 42 weeks. Okay. What's significant about 42 weeks? Well, just so happens it's the gestation period of a human, 42 weeks. It was in the constellation of Leo 42 weeks. And on September 23rd, 2017, Jupiter exited Virgo from between her feet. This all happened on Yom Teruah or about Yom Teruah 2017. Okay, the revelation sign. It was not a prophetic sign so much of some future event as it was a confirmation that Yahusha is the Messiah. So the Revelation 12 sign tells us that what we've been taught about Yahusha being the Messiah, this is signs. This is a sign in the stars that is true. Because again, let's go back. You've got the Virgin with Jupiter in her abdomen for 9 months, for the whole gestation period of a human. That and it Jupiter is it's there in the constellation, not moving, staying in the constellation. And so on this day, it exited from between her feet, giving birth. It's saying that the fact it's confirming the birth of the Messiah. It happened. And so, in looking at this, again, it's a sign of confirmation that Yahusha is the Messiah. So Jewish people, Jewish historians, the Magi, whenever they look at this should be a sign that tells them that sign that put Yahusha at the forefront of what they need to be looking at. Okay? Now, on Yom Teruah 2,000 years ago, the trumpets were being blown, unknowingly announcing the birth of the Messiah. So when they were blowing the trumpets 2,000 years ago, at the end of the jubilee, they were blowing the trumpet unknowingly that they were announcing the literal birth of the Messiah. He was born shortly right after the blowing of the trumpets on Yom Teruah over 2,000 years ago at the end of that jubilee. Okay? They didn't know what they were doing. They knew that they were blowing the trumpet for Yom Teruah, but they had no idea. And they knew that it was the end of the jubilee, but they didn't know that they were blowing the trumpet announcing the birth of the Messiah. Okay. On Yom Teruah 2017, the trumpets were being blown unknowingly to most people, giving confirmation of the Revelation 12 sign that John saw, a sign confirming or warning the end time prophecy is in our midst. Okay, here's where it all comes together. The Revelation 12 sign is it's confirming that Yahusha was the Messiah. It's confirming that he was born at the beginning of the Jubilee on Yom Teruah over 2,000 years ago. And the 2017 trumpets were blowing, and there's still more to the story. This is where it really gets to me, it gets interesting. Okay. This is what I personally believe. Now, I do know that according to Jewish historians and everybody, 20 or 1917 was a Jubilee year. 1917. Okay, 1967 was a Jubilee year. The 67 War. That was a Jubilee year. Okay, that means that 2017 was a Jubilee year. So, in other words, during the Jubilee year on Yom Teruah, the Revelation 12 sign occurred, announcing that that was the beginning of the final Jubilee, believe it or not. That's where I'm going with this. So when you if you do the if you look at this, when John saw the when the Revelation 12 sign happened on 2017. To me, this is the confirmation that we entered. That's when we entered the final Jubilee. The Yahusha was born on a Jubilee cycle, and he was born on Yom Teruah, and so he lived and died within that Jubilee. Now, that was the Jubilee that started the dominoes to falling. And now we, in 2017, here just a few years ago, we had the same sign in the constellations that John saw 2,000 years ago. John saw the same, he saw it in the constellation, and that Jubilee, that when the marking of that Jubilee, or when Jupiter exited from between the legs or between the feet of the Virgin, is the marking or the beginning of the final Jubilee. Now, if you do the math, 2017 was the beginning of the Jubilee. That would put 2016 at the end of that Jubilee cycle. So, no, I'm sorry, 2067 would be the end of that Jubilee cycle. But, okay, there's two things. Keep this in mind. Yahuwah said that he would cut the days short because he said that no flesh would survive if it went to the final end of the Jubilee. So we know that he's going to cut it short. But here's another thing. Yahusha was born at that Jubilee cycle. He didn't live but around 30 years, 30 of the 50-year Jubilee cycle. So in other words, so to me, what this is saying is that if you do the calculation, if Yahuwah cuts it short and he uses the lifespan of the Messiah as a gauge for the last Jubilee cycle, then that Jubilee cycle could be, it literally could be anytime. But I think realistically, we're looking at somewhere, in the late 2030s, kind of time frame, or maybe into the early 40s for everything to actually come to an end. But I will tell you that, it says that if he let it go, that no flesh would survive because nobody would be able to survive. Well, we're nowhere near that yet. So we're nowhere near things getting bad enough, that it would cause even the elect to fall away. So, those that are keeping the commandments of Yahuwah and believing that Yahusha is the Messiah, it's saying, we're able to do that now. Where at the end, when it really gets bad, something's going to be taken away. Something's going to happen to where people won't even be able to do that. So, but we know that we're nowhere near that yet. So we're not at that end time today. But now things could happen tomorrow. We could end up, the way the world's going, we could end up in nuclear war this afternoon or tomorrow or whatever, and then all things could change and we could be at the end before the end of the week. So sometime, you know, being in the final jubilee, sometime in this jubilee cycle, I really believe that we're looking at the second coming. We're looking at the time that Yahusha is going to come back during it, and it's probably or very likely to be in our lifetime. So and especially Caden and his family, there he's on right now, but Caden for sure will see it, and Levi his son will absolutely be here at that time, or that's what I think. And so the younger generations I think will actually see the second coming, and so looking at the way all this come together, I I 100% believe that Revelation 12 sign was the mark of the beginning of the final Jubilee. That's what it looks to me like. So, and I may have heard that, somewhere in the past, but for some reason today it really fell into place. So anyway, that's my take on the Revelation 12 sign and how it all plays into Yom Teruah, how Adam, Noah, Yahusha, how they all are very instrumental in understanding the background of the Jubilee cycle, and understanding the all about where we are today. And that's just the way it looks to me. So I'm going to go ahead and end the study. I want to thank everybody for being part of our study today. I hope that it's been interesting. I hope maybe you picked something up. I know some might not agree with everything that I said, but I'm just telling you, according to Scripture, that's my interpretation. That's my take on how things are going to fall out. So again, I want to thank everybody for being on Zoom with us today. I want to thank everybody that watches the YouTube video, and I guess we'll see you next Shabbat, Yahuwah willing. Thank you very much.